What's up guys, I hope you are having a great day where I will teach you everything about arrays and array methods in JavaScript. What I would like to do is to explain to you what an array is in a pretty normal way without programming terms. You can see an array as a big box which has multiple items inside of it, and you can assign a single value, multiple values, or all of them at the same time. You can perform a lot of actions on arrays because you have a list of multiple items inside of it. And therefore, JavaScript came with array methods to make things easier for us. We could use a function to add items to the end or extract an item and so on. In JavaScript, there are two ways how we could declare an array. The first way is to wrap the items inside brackets. So let's do that. So let's say that the first method is the bracket method. So let's create a constant called jobs. And let's set it equal to an opening and closing bracket. And we need to end it with a semicolon. Inside the bracket, we could add single quotes because I want to work with strings. And the first job is, well, let's say a software dev. After the single quote, comma, space, set of single quotes again, HR analyst. Outside of my second value, comma, I want to create a third one, which is a marketing one. And the last one is finance. What I want to do right now is to console log it just to see the output. So let's do that. Let's console log jobs. And you can see that the output is an array because there are brackets at the beginning and at the end of the output. The second way is to, let me go right below my bracket method, is to use the array constructor. So let's say that we want to create a constant called age, and to use the array constructor we need to set it equal to a new, so the keyword new, space, array with a capital A, followed by a set of parentheses, because we're calling the array function. Inside the parentheses we could add numbers instead of strings, and for numbers we don't need to wrap it inside single quotes. It's just the same as defining a number or a string as a variable. So let's add a couple of numbers, 24, 25, 55, 74, 44, and 18. Now let's console log age again. Well, we can replace jobs with age. Let's save it. And you can see that we have 8 values inside of an array of numbers. Another cool thing that we could do is to add multiple data types in one array. Right now, we have strings in one array and we have numbers in one array. So let's create a new constant. Well, let me add a comment, mixed data types. And let's create a constant called mixed. And let's set it equal to brackets. I will usually use the bracket method, but if you do prefer to use the array constructor, it really doesn't matter because the output will always be the same. The first value that I want to add is my age, so 24, comma, space, my name, so Dari, the city where I live in, Amsterdam, undefined, so the variable type undefined, and the last one is a boolean of true. Now let's change our console log to mixed, let's save it, and you can see that everything will be printed out fine without any error message. So we have a number, 2 strings, the undefined, and the boolean. What I would like to focus on right now is a couple array methods that we have. So let's create a new variable, well, comment first. So we want to mutate to show different things. So let's create a variable, let test. The first method that I want to show you is how we could get the length of the array. So right below our variable, let's add a comment which says get the length of the array. And what we could do is to set test equal to age. So the array that we have called age, punctuation mark, length. Now let's change our console log to test. Let's save it. And you can see that the output is 8 because the length of our array is 8. We could also check if a variable is an array. So let's add a comment. So to check if it is an array. And what we need to do is to set test equal to array with a capital A, punctuation mark, and you can see all the functions that we can perform. But I want to focus on the isArray function. So we need to add parentheses. Inside the parentheses, we need to add the array or the variable that we want to check if it's an array or not. In our case, let's just test age again. Let's save it. And you can see that the output is true because the data type of our test or of our age, is equal to an array. If we wrap age inside single quotes, it's a string, so let's save it, and the output is false. In the beginning of this video, I've told you that it is possible to get one specific value inside an array. And if we look at our jobs array, so we have software dev, HR analyst, marketing, and finance, we have wrapped our values inside the arrays in single quotes, so we're working with strings. So everything that is separated with a comma inside the array is a value. So this is a value, HR analyst is a value, marketing is a value, and finance is a value. You also need to understand that every value is assigned to an index number. And in order to print something out, we need to refer to that specific number. So let's go down. And right below our test, let's add a comment because we want to get a specific value. So let's set test equal to jobs, brackets, and let's end it with a semicolon. Inside the brackets, let's add in single quotes the name that we want to use. So let's say that we want to search for marketing. Let's save it. And the return value will be undefined because right now we're trying to access the values and that does not work. What we need to do is to access the index numbers. And in every programming language, an index does not start with 1, but it always starts with 0. So you need to keep that in mind. Let me add that as a comment as well. Index always starts with 0. So software dev is index number 0, HR analyst is 1, marketing is 2, and finance is 3. Now let's go down again, and let's replace marketing with an index number. So let's start off with 0. Let's save it. And now you can see that software developer as a string has been printed out on the screen. Now let's say that you are working on a complex application and you have defined your array somewhere in the application. But somewhere later on, you just want to add a new value to it. In order to make this handy, we could use a push function. So let me add a comment once again, which says add value to an array. So what we need to do is to write down the array name, so jobs, punctuation mark, and well, you can see the first option for me, which is the push function. Inside the push function, we need to add a string or whatever data type you want that you want to add to your array. So in single quotes, let's add data analyst. And on the line below, well, if we save it right now, nothing will be printed out. Well, software developer will be printed out. We're setting test equal to jobs index 0. So let's console.log jobs, save it. And you can see that data analyst has been added to the array that we created. And obviously, there is also a method which helps us to remove elements at the end of an array. So let's say that we want to delete a value. Let's write down jobs again, punctuation mark, pop. If we save it, you can see that data analyst has been removed from our array. The problem with the pop function is that a value at the end of an array has been removed. So you cannot specify which index number you want to remove because it's always the last one. And you have probably guessed it, there's also a method which helps in removing elements from the beginning of an array. So deletes the first value. Let's write down test and let's set it equal to jobs, punctuation mark, shift. Let's save it. And the name implies pretty much what it does. It will shift the array to the left with one index. And you can see that software dev has been deleted from our array. And of course, there is a function which helps you to add an element to the beginning of the array. So unshift again. So let's set test equal to jobs, punctuation mark, unshift. And what we want to unshift, what we want to add at the beginning is in single quotes, software dev again. Let's save it. And you can see that software dev has been returned. Another pretty cool function is the join function, which will create a string of all values inside the array, and it does not change the array itself. Let's go right below our unshift and let's say create a complete string. And let's set test equal to jobs, punctuation mark, join. If we save it, you can see that by default, there's been a comma added to separate the values right here. But what we could do is to replace the comma. So let's go inside the join function, inside the parentheses, let's add single quotes, and let's define whatever we want to replace our comma with. So if we say space, save it, you can see that everything has been printed out with a space in between. And we can also say a vertical bar, save it, and everything has been separated with a vertical bar. I would like to show you two more functions that will be pretty handy. The first one is the reverse function, which basically takes an array and reverses it. So let's say reverse, but you also need to be aware that the changes will be permanently. So the values of the array will stay reversed. What we need to do is to set test equal to jobs, punctuation mark, reverse function. Let's save it. And right now, you can see that the last index, well, let me scroll up. So we defined our jobs array with finance as the last index. And if you look at the output, you can see that finance has been changed to the first index. And the last one is the sort function. And this works both on numbers and strings. So let's test it out with strings first. Let's say that we want to sort. And what we want to do is to set test equal to jobs. So the string, punctuation mark, sort. You can see that the jobs are sorted on alphabetical order. And if we replace jobs with age, save it. And you can see that the lowest index is index 0. And the highest number is the last index. This will also work on a mixed array. So let's change age to mixed, save it. But you need to be aware that if you use the sort function on different types of data types inside an array, numbers will always go before the alphabet. This was it for this video about arrays and array methods. If you do enjoy my videos and you want to see more, leave this video a thumbs up, and if you're new to this channel, please hit that subscribe button.